Kobe Bryant's 81-point outburst last night against the helpless Toronto Raptors was the second highest point total in NBA history, and it was more than Michael Jordan ever scored in a single game. Kobe still has a way to go to catch Wilt Chamberlain's NBA record of 100 points in a single game, but he smashed Elgin Baylor's Lakers record of 71 points, which was set against the New York Knicks in 1960. Let me say this. Is there any question at all right now who the best guard in the game is? Anybody with sense should know Kobe's the man right now. Make absolutely no mistake about it. He is unstoppable. And he's reestablishing himself the way that you should. He's showing himself. The man is fixated on basketball. He is dominating in every facet of the game. And I'm going to put it to y'all this way. I spoke to Coach Sam Mitchell of the Toronto Raptors earlier today. Here's what he told me. Steve, we doubled him. We trapped him when he got past half court. Couple of times we triple teamed him. We played the box and one, which you don't use unless you're in college. He said, Steve, I did everything but mug that boy. And still, this man dropped 81 points on us. It's the most phenomenal performance that I've ever seen. And then when I asked Sam Mitchell, how would you compare him to Michael Jordan, especially if he ends up winning a championship? He said, first of all, I wouldn't bet against Kobe winning the championship in the next 5 years. And secondly, and more importantly, he's got 3 rings already, and he's fixated on a game in ways that these guys today don't even know how to be. He plays on both ends of the floor. Not only did he drop 81 points, he was sticking my best guard and shut him down. End of discussion. I won't hear any more about it. Now, I can ask about Kobe and his greatness. We're not debating that this boy is great right now. We're going to debate how he compares to other greats in history, but we're not debating his greatness anymore. He's the man right now, plain and simple. For more than 3 decades, Sonny Hill has been a Philadelphia basketball insider whose relationships range from ties to Kobe and his family to a close friendship with NBA legend Wilt Chamberlain. Sonny, who serves as an executive advisor to the Philadelphia 76ers, joins me right now from the city of brotherly love. Sonny, you saw Wilt score 100 points and Kobe score 81. How is Kobe Bryant comparing with the league's all-time great players?
Right now, he's in the top 4 of the pantheon of great players. What people don't understand, Kobe is not playing against the players of this era. Kobe is playing against the legends of the game. So when you now talk about Kobe Bryant, you now have to talk about him in the same terminology as you would with the Big Dipper, with Elgin Baylor, with Michael Jordan, and he's right in that group. So that is a select group that only the 4 of them can even talk about, simply because Kobe has visited the 60-plus number as well as the big 81 that he put up.
Sonny, a lot of people don't realize how many games you show up. You practically live at the arenas. You watch all of these games. You're practically at every Philadelphia 76ers home game, walking around and everything else. People talking, whether it's Allen Iverson, LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, or people of today's era, that some of them compare are even better than Kobe Bryant. Are you saying that Kobe Bryant is better than all of those guys?
Right now, he would have to be at the top of the list because the other players don't get into that big 4. When you're talking big 4 of scoring and really being offensive players in the history of the NBA, you have to talk about the big 4 that I just talked about, and Kobe's one of the big 4.
What makes Kobe so great as a basketball player in your estimation?
Well, there's a couple things. First off, it's his inner drive, as I said to you, and this is something that nobody else knows because Kobe and I shared this a few years ago. He wants to be one of the great players of all time. Not a great player in this era, but one of the great players of all time. The other thing that separates him from so many other players is he's got the Philadelphia game. You know what that is?
No, I don't. Tell me.
The Philadelphia game was the pull-up jump shot, baby. You know, like you put it on the floor and then you say, oh, no. And then you shoot the 3-point and you say, hey, hey. And then when you run up on me, right to the hoop ski and do what Dip did all the time. Tomahawk in your face. And then look at you and say, where am I from? Philadelphia.
All right, Sonny. Okay, Sonny. But when you think about Kobe, a lot of people, even I had to answer this question today. Somebody said, could Kobe ever, when you look at the feat of 81 points, could he ever duplicate that? Do you see him scoring 100 points in a game in this particular era the way the Big Dipper did, as you say?
No, because even to score 81 points exceeded my expectation of any player in this era. You must understand this, that in this era, very few teams score 80 points. The average in the NBA right now for the teams in aggregate is probably around 94, 95 points. So they don't even score 100 points. And for Kobe to get 81 points in this era is a phenomenal feat unto itself.
But Sonny, how much credit do you give the fact that to the fact that it was against the Toronto Raptors? I mean, I love my man Sam Mitchell, the coach, but they were playing against the Toronto Raptors. Not exactly a playoff caliber team or a defensive stalwart, mind you.
Well, you see the difference between what you're talking about. See, you're a New York guy. You don't know about scoring a whole lot of points.
There you go.
See, I'm a Philadelphia guy, and I know about scoring a whole lot of points because I did that. When you go to the gym and you put up those kind of numbers, as you open up when you said Sam Mitchell and his team tried to devise everything they could so that he would not be able to get the points. And as Kobe said, when they ran at me for the double, I shot the jumper. When they ran at me with something else, I split them. And when they stayed back, I dropped a three-point hammer on them.
All right, well, before I get to my next question, let me play something for you. Scotty Pippen made some comments about Kobe and Michael Jordan earlier today on the show Cold Pizza on ESPN2. Sonny, I want you to listen to Scotty and then respond. Go ahead and play that soundbite for me, fellas.
I mean, judging on the way that the game is today, you look at the rules, you look at the hand checking of what was allowed back then when Michael Jordan was playing basketball at his highest level. It was a different defensive game. In today's game, if you look at it, players are a lot more freelance. They have a lot more opportunities to score the basketball. And what we're seeing in a guy like Kobe Bryant, who's a lot more mature from a mental standpoint in the game than where Michael Jordan was at 27, he's taking advantage of it.
Do you think Jordan could have scored 81 in a game?
I think it would have been very difficult, you know, as I said, the rules.
Right.
But I think if the rules were put in place back when Michael Jordan was in his prime, no hand checking, the game was more geared towards offense, wanting to sort of promote scoring in the game, he could have probably got close. I mean, he did score 69.
Your thoughts, Sonny?
Oh, he's right on target. Some people have called me today, and you have to look at the eras of basketball. You got to understand, Scotty Pippen, that when Michael was playing, and Scotty, I knew Michael before you knew Michael because I'm on the McDonald Advisory Committee, so I saw him play in Wichita, Kansas in the McDonald game. So Michael and his family were close. But in Michael's era, it was one hand check. When Wilt was playing, it was two hand checks. And Earl Strom, the legendary referee who's no longer with us, said to me a number of times. He said, Sonny, if we called all the fouls on Wilt, we wouldn't have a game. So there was two sets of rules for Wilt when he played. But Scotty is right that the product is a product of 30 teams now, which means it's watered down. The rules are such that if you breathe on a player today, that they get to the foul line, but take nothing away from the fact. Let me tell you, what did that man score? He scored 81 points, and let me tell you something else about basketball. Most people couldn't get up 48 shots if you told them to take 48 shots. So that in itself tells you what kind of a gift that Kobe has and really how astute he is in terms of how to play the game of basketball.
Sonny, having said all of that, you know, Shaquille O'Neal is gone. It's Kobe's team. We all know that. He's got Lamar Odom. They're going to need some pieces. They might even need to swap Lamar Odom in order to get the pieces necessary in order to end up winning an NBA championship. Do you see Kobe winning an NBA championship again without the services of Shaquille O'Neal?
I think so, because the resources will be there because of the Los Angeles Lakers and Dr. Buss. And Phil Jackson must have been a lot wiser than a lot of people thought. You know, Phil wouldn't be back coaching if he didn't think that there was some potential within the framework of what's going on with the Lakers. And most important, he had some insight to the drive and determination. What Kobe needed was somebody like Phil to kind of put a steady hand on him and that team. And the best is yet to come.
Sonny, you know I love you, my man. I appreciate you being on the show.
Right
Thanks a lot,
back
buddy.
at you, baby.
All right, boss.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sonny.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.